What's going on, mi gente? How are you? And welcome back to the Florida Table. This special edition is for Black History Month, and we're going to have an amazing conversation today. We are a community of over 1 million moms and dads united against air pollution to protect our children's health. Through our awesome network of state-based field organizers, we work on national and local policy issues. We meet with lawmakers at every level of government to build support for equitable, just, and healthy solutions for pollution. Today's conversation is going to be moderated by none other than Yaritza Perez, your amazing field organizer from Orlando, Florida. And of course, I couldn't get any work done without my amazing partner, Gabriela De Silva from Tampa, Florida.
Hi, all. Thank you, Yaritza. My name is Gabriela De Silva, aka Gabby, based out of Tampa Bay. I'm so excited for this conversation today. We are joined by Commissioner Nancy Metayer of Coral Springs, Florida. She's from South Florida. Nancy serves as a Coral Springs' first Black and Haitian American woman commissioner. She is an environmental scientist and former member of the Broward County Soil and Water Conservation District. She has undertaken work across multiple government agencies and nonprofit organizations where she brought long-term strategic expertise to programs seeking to improve environmental conditions, water, sanitation, and public health. She has been a staunch advocate for those impacted by water crises nationwide and worked extensively in response to devastating natural disasters such as Hurricane Irma, Michael, and Dorian. Floridians, we remember those. She believes in making her city, Coral Springs, a leader in sustainability and resiliency, and with new initiatives that will address and mitigate the escalating consequence of climate change within Coral Springs. Furthermore, she believes in supporting small businesses and sees tremendous opportunities to expand the scope of community industries such as solar manufacturing. She graduated with a Bachelor of Science from Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University, aka FAMU, and her Master of Health Science from Johns Hopkins University. She is a steering committee member for the Miami Climate Alliance, an executive board member of the Aviance and Son Ruthless Broward, Women's March Broward, and the Broward County Commission on the Status of Women Advisory Board. Commissioner Metayer also serves as a committee member for Coral Springs Neighborhood Environmental Committee. With all that in mind, welcome, Commissioner Metayer. Nancy, we're so happy to have you on our conversation today.
Well, thank you so much. It's sometimes really hard to listen to your bio, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate you all doing the great work that you're doing and having me today. I can't get the work done without people and organizations like you all, so I'm super excited to engage with you and really discuss how other folks can plug in and how I can be a resource and what we can do to make our communities sustainable and safe.
Amazing. So, as mentioned, you are the first Haitian American woman elected to represent the city of Coral Springs. Just walk us through how that felt.
Oh, it is. Sometimes I'm in awe, but then sometimes I'm just like, oh my goodness. It took a lot of work to get here, but I stand on the shoulders of giants, and my ancestors walked me through this path with grace. And I know that my community was behind me 110%. It is a privilege and it's an honor to have this title, especially represent this minority group in Coral Springs. But it's also very flattering to see other folks embrace that diversity in my community. I can't say everyone, but for the most part, a lot of folks, and just really getting real words of encouragement, people reaching out and saying, oh my goodness, I never would have thought of this day. My daughter definitely resonates with you. Can she shadow you? I started a shadowing program at the city, and it's so beautiful to see young women, especially women of color, come in and see what I do for a day and ask questions. And one day, hopefully, they can see themselves in the position that I'm in. I allow them to sit in my seat, take a photo, see behind the dais, imagine themselves, because you can't be what you don't see, right? So if they can see themselves, they take a photo, they sit back, they're like, I can do this. Like, if Miss M can do it, like, I can do this. So it's definitely flattering. There has been some barriers and hardships that have come along the way as being the first. There's these expectations, right, from your community. Since you're in the seat, you need to do this. And realistically, yes, I'm the first, but there's a system that has that's in place that don't allow us to do the changes right away or immediately, but those changes are happening. So I ask my community to be very patient with me as these systems have been placed for years, and you can't dismantle them within a term, right? Which is 4 years. So I ask them to give me grace and continue putting people like me into power so we can, come out here with a force and definitely dismantle a system that continues to keep people of color oppressed.
Yeah, for sure. And you think about the concept, this has been such a big thing for so many communities of how much representation matters, right? So from a local government scale, like you're filling that role and so many others are filling that role and being that not only the representative for a community, but just to show that, like you said, we are all capable of doing this kind of work. We're all capable of sitting in this chair and advocating for communities. And I just think of and like in the media too, movie Encanto, I saw so many like memes of like Antonio and like the kid standing next to him, like taking a picture, like, oh my gosh, like there is somebody that looks like me that's in these cartoons, that's in these movies. And another part of the argument or the conversation really has been about like representation within education too. So like I know there's been a lot of good work on having Black representation in like medical books, like pregnant moms in medical books, and medical schools, and things of that sort. So it all kind of flows together and is all interconnected in some way, shape, or another. And I feel like it's just no matter where you're at, no matter how much you do, the fact that your face and your values are at the table are the things that are going to keep other things moving forward.
Absolutely. And if I can add to that super quickly, yes, representation matters. It's so important. It's also so important that we place folks in these roles because there is a lot of negative stigmas around not just Black folks and Latinas and Latinos, but just people of color in general, especially with this political atmosphere that we're in now, especially in Florida, where we're getting a lot of divisive legislation, and to see people fighting against that and, going up and championing equitable laws and making sure they're fighting for the community is a beautiful thing. And I always have this message, I'm like, skin folk ain't always kinfolk, and representation does matter, but core values and morals are just as important too. So making sure that we have the representation and making sure that these elected officials align with the core values of the communities they say that they're representing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for this year's Black History Month theme, because they have a new theme every single year, it's Black health and wellness. As someone with a health science background, as a Black woman, like, what does this mean for you? What are some things that you're focused on? What are some issues that are on the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, so my part-time job is being a commissioner, but my full-time job is working around reproductive and gender justice work, and really how that intersects into everything that we do, right? Our health intersects with affordable housing. Our health intersects with access to healthcare. As of yesterday, this month, this legislative session, there has been attack on a woman's body, the autonomy of what you can and cannot do with your body. And I like to run this with the folks in my community. This 15-week abortion ban, how it hurts our community, especially those who don't understand how it's related to climate change. South Florida is very prone to vector diseases, waterborne diseases, and Zika being one of them. I know we haven't heard about Zika in a while, but this is just for an example. So entertain me for a little bit. As we continue to get severe weather patterns, and more and more of these diseases like Zika will become more and more apparent. So what does that mean for our communities, especially communities of color versus affluent communities? Well, Barbara Sue, who lives in a very affluent community, can, during rainy season, can book a flight and go live with her family in Connecticut if she has the means to do so. While Mary Jean, that lives in Little Haiti or Shorecrest in a predominantly Black area that is prone to these environmental conditions, can't do that. They still have to go to work. They still have to truck through those floodwaters and may be exposed to vector diseases, right? And so when we talk about abortion rights and abortion care, these individuals do not have now, may not have the option, one, access to abortion care, and two, may not be able to get that form of healthcare because abortion care is healthcare, and can't terminate that pregnancy. So now this person was exposed to Zika and are unable to terminate an unwanted pregnancy because of this underlying health condition. And this is what we try to educate community on in our legislature. It's not that individuals, a lot of abortions are wanted pregnancies. They just either can't afford it or they are exposed to some pre-existing condition that they can't fully follow through with this pregnancy. And so when we talk about maternal health, the individuals that are impacted the most are the people that look like me in all reality. When we talk about maternal deaths, Black women are number one in dying in these situations, and not getting that proper maternal health and support that they deserve. When we talk about health, it's also Red Month, Heart Month. Folks who are dying from cardiac disease and respiratory disease are Black males and Black women. And Latin folks are treading right behind us. And so this issue is very important to us. It's important that we also intersect how air pollution is connected to this. We saw the numbers during COVID, right? The people who were dying of COVID lived in areas where there was high cases of air pollution because their respiratory system was not strong enough to combat COVID-19. And so that all intersects. And until we have real conversations about what access to healthcare looks like, not only in this country, but in Florida, then we are dismissing our entire population and not giving them the care that they deserve.
Yes, on all of that, right? Like it's so true. And these are conversations these are some of the topics and issues that people just kind of graze over or don't even look at because they're so focused on this is the one reason why abortions are happening, not realizing that there's just so many, it's endless possibilities on what is causing a woman to do that, right? And this is a very wild or great question, and it's difficult to answer and just pinpoint it. But from your experience, what are some of the most important, or what do you think is the most important thing that can be done to ensure environmental justice for our communities?
That is so much,
right?
We all know environmental degradation and climate change are all threat multipliers. And for us to really address environmental justice and environmental equity, we have to address a system that continues to keep people of color oppressed. Until we address the system, this is environmental justice and environmental equity is going to continue to be something that we're going to have to fight very hard for. When we talk about environmental justice and environmental equity, are we also connecting the dots to affordable housing? Are we also connecting the dots to access to healthcare? Are we also connecting the dots to just transitions to jobs? With not having those conversations and not really dismantling those systems, it's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. So from the first thing I would recommend is really implementing and pushing on policies that dismantle these systems. And we have a chance to do that. This is an important year for many of us here in Florida. And I encourage you all to do that research and really get involved on a policy lens and really hold your elected and state officials accountable when it comes to creating these policies that address environmental justice and environmental equity?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough question because, like you said, it's a multi-layered, multifaceted issue. It all connects, whether it's to health, to housing, right? The federal, at the federal level, they say it's a national security issue, right? There's so many things that are embedded in this issue that have been exacerbated by COVID and, and just people's overall awareness of environmental issues and its impact on communities. So we just appreciate you just being there and always keeping the force and pushing our elected officials to represent the peoples in which they are representing. And, they're not there just to sit in power, they're there to advocate for the people, and we need to just make sure they're continuously doing that. And to transition out of this, I wanted to ask a fun-ish question. If you could meet any Black advocate, icon, legend, what have you, who would it be?
Can I say two people?
Sure. That's fine.
So people don't know this about me, but I'm a huge Prince fan. If I could just go back, share the stage with him, learn how to play the guitar, change styles, and have him style me for a day, that would make my day, right? So take me back and introduce me to Prince and let me experience a day with him. So amazing. That is just fun if I could have it my way. Another person would be Shirley Chisholm, an icon all around, someone who just was unapologetic in the skin that she was in. A lot of the issues that she was fighting for in her time, the late Congresswoman and the first Black woman to run for president, are the same issues we are facing now. And I really want to have a sit down with her and say, how did you find the strength? How did you continue going? How did you ground yourself? And how can we move forward from this? Because the more and more that we do this work, and I know you all are in the trenches too, the more and more I feel like we're going backwards in time. And so I just really would love to hear her wisdom and get a breath of encouragement from her and see how she was able to continue to maneuver through such very divisive times that we're now seeing unfold again now in 2022.
And I'm sure if she were alive today, she'd be like, what the heck is going on?
Correct.
Here is 2022. What are we doing?
Right.
Oh, yes. So just wanted to go over some of the provisions from the Build Back Better, some of the climate provisions from Build Back Better. We want to talk about expanding air pollution monitoring. We want to have and create cleaner jobs, cleaner energy jobs. We want to address a lot of the environmental justice impacts that it has within our communities. We want to also make sure that people are aware of like how much it invests in healthier schools. That's definitely something that maybe isn't one of those hot topics that people are talking about, but we want to make sure that the schools that we're sending our kids to are also healthy. And in doing so, we really want to make sure that we focus on some of these provisions as Floridians as a whole. What do you think would be like, if you have 2 minutes, your elevator pitch with a mom, if you're just talking to her and she has no idea what's going on, what would be maybe 2 or 3 of those key climate provisions that you would want that mom or dad to take home with them as a Floridian dad, as a Floridian mom, and focus on when they're talking to their leaders?
My 30 seconds starts now, right? So I would say, listen, mom, dad, if you don't know how important it is to fight for your healthcare, this is the time. If you didn't know how important it is to fight for your children, this is the time. We have legislation in place that will protect your health and protect your children. So I recommend that you get in line, register people to vote who align with these issues and these provisions. Hey, we are here in a a zone in Florida where climate change is inevitable. Like, we are feeling the impacts right now. And when we talk about clean air, that we live in a state where there's a monopoly, and it's time for us to call them out and make sure that access to clean renewable energy is accessible, right? So if you want solar on your schools, on your home, that should be a right, not a choice. Everyone should have access to clean renewable energy in the state of Florida because we are the Sunshine State. So I encourage you to get involved and call out these individuals and align yourself with electeds that have the same core values as you do and what falls in line within these amendments, these provisions, I'm sorry.
Yes, preach it louder. Do we have a megaphone for her somewhere here? No. Thank you so much. That was amazing. And you're right. It's all about just taking to action, doing something about it. And I'm sure that when our children see us doing something, when we show them how important their future is to us, I mean, that's what it's all about. They're able to pass that along, right? And all this stuff, all this work doesn't go in vain. Of course, we want to thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your busy day. You could have been anywhere on a beautiful Friday, Florida Friday afternoon, and you're here with us having a conversation. So if you ever, for our listeners out there, for more information, for petitions, you can go ahead and check us out at momscleanairforce.org, at Clean Air Moms _Florida on Twitter. You can check us out on Facebook. We're on all kinds of social media platforms. Commissioner, do you have any social media you'd like to share with us and our listeners so they can follow you?
Absolutely. Please follow me on IG and Twitter at Nancy Metayer. That is Nancy Metayer, NancyMetayer.
Fantastic. Yes, we're definitely going to stay in communication with you, ma'am, because we have a lot of work to do. And there's a lot more folks that we definitely need to get involved in the work that we're doing, because, I mean, if not us, then who, right?
Yep. Thank you again for having me, and I hope you all stay involved.
And before we go real quick, I just want to say in the comments, we're going to put a few links to different petitions. One urging President Biden to send a strong message on Build Back Better and climate investments in the State of the Union address. Other on Black maternal health and Building Back Better petition, right? As Nancy spoke, like, you know, Black moms are dying at 3 to 4 times the rate of white moms, and that's not okay in 2022. So we would love for you to sign that petition too. And last but not least, and Nancy mentioned it as well, the net metering petition that we have, Al EDF has posted, urging our lawmakers to say no, because this bill devastates rooftop solar industry here in Florida. And hello, we are the Sunshine State. We need this renewable energy for our families, for our kids, for our future. So check out those petitions and those links. And we thank you again, Nancy, and thanks for tuning into the Florida Table, everyone. Have a good one.